Good evening, everyone. Yang Yan Zhao back again. Tonight, we have an extra special guest. Very quickly, do a little housekeeping. Tomorrow morning, for a special 9 a.m. Eastern Time edition, we have CJ Leung. He is the man behind the YouTube channels Cool History Bro and Don't Stop Thinking. He is a tabletop role playing gamer who I believe is in Australia at the moment. And he has connections all over Asia. We'll be finding out what's popular in various Asian countries, how things are going in the tabletop role playing game space, and about his own game, Cloudbreaker Alliance. Um, and hey, for anyone new to the channel, if you could, over on YouTube or on Rumble, why don't you subscribe to the channel? Give us a quick like so that we know you're interested in the content. And if you're on X, consider joining us on either YouTube or Rumble. You'll get a lot more out of the chats in those areas. But tonight, for the main event, we have a man who has his own superhero origin, a man who Zeus has tried to murder at least twice and failed. He is a grand master of sci-fi authoring, and something I did not know the last time I talked to him. He was a test player for earlier editions of Dungeons and Dragons. Tonight's special guest, Ralts Bloodthorne.
Hey, at least I'm live. How's everybody doing tonight? For those of you coming in late when it's not live, welcome. And don't forget to mash that subscribe button because, hey, we all like to know people subscribe.
Yes, I like to pretend people actually care. but thanks for coming. So happy to have you back. It's been about a year.
Yeah, been a hell of a year.
Oof, no kidding. But one thing I did not know when you were on last time is that you were part of the game testing for Dungeons and Dragons.
For 3.0, 3.5, Die 20 Modern, and Die 20 Future.
Wow. So first of all, how did you get that position, and what made you want to do it?
Let's see. It wasn't really. I went to a lot of forums back in the day, back in the 90s, and hell, before that, I was on BBSs. And some of the people that were hired, I actually drove up to Seattle when Wizards of the Coast was doing an open hiring call way back in the beginning. And I actually went up and applied for a job because somebody clued me in on it. Actually, I didn't get to the application point. I was looking at my fellow applicants that were being called in and coming out with a smile. There was literally a guy dressed in a Star Trek uniform. And I was like, you know what? I'm out. I got in the truck. My wife was like, oh, that was quick. I said, there's a guy sitting there in a Star Trek uniform. He thinks it's appropriate to wear that to a job interview. I'm out. And she was like, okay, let's go home. She's like, that's fine. I hate Seattle. My wife hates Seattle. So, but I knew, I did that. I would BBSs and then internet forums, early internet forums. Some of the people I knew from all the way back in the Windows 95 days on the BBS, on the forums and the BBSs. And if anybody knows what the old ring networks were, where you had a thing down at the base of your web page that you had to be approved by the mods and you were added to the ring. And if you were a D&D player, you looked at the site and you cruised down and you could hit random or next or previous and go to another site with just one click. And I was involved in that stuff. And I had, my site had, additional spells for second edition, additional character class changes. I had a whole bunch of stuff. I had a tripod site, if you want to know how long ago this was.
Wow.
And I had stuff for Rifts, and I had stuff for D&D. I had stuff for Top Secret. That's all. And Star Frontiers. Yeah, so we're talking a lot. And Shadowrun. So we're talking a long time ago. I had one of the rings I was in, I had the 5th largest site. And so when 3.0 came around, I was part of N-World. I was part of something called Nutkin Land. I was part of Realms of Evil. And, I knew all these people. and somebody was like, "Hey, you had a security clearance, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "What level?" I was like, standard security clearance. There's different levels. It doesn't matter. I was like, "It doesn't fucking matter. I had a security clearance." And they're like, "You want to sign an NDA?" I was like, "Well, I don't know. What are we talking about?" "Hey, Damien." He's like, "What are we talking about for NDA?" And they're like, "I can't tell you." I said, "Oh, I love these. We want you in on this, but you have to sign an NDA. But you don't know what you're signing an NDA about until you sign it." And I was like, "You know what? I've lived this life. Uh, yeah, we'll do it." And I got the NDA, and I was like, "Wow, it's from Wizards of the Coast. There's a lot of we will come to your house and shoot you," and to the point where I wasn't even allowed to talk about what I was actually playtesting. I wasn't allowed to talk about anything, and I would get like every week, uh, FedEx courier sometimes, but FedEx a lot, signed for, registered, sealed, and uh, packets that had the latest update changes to them. There were the arguments about feat traps, and this feat is saying this feat is fucking useless. I got into arguments with Monty Cook and the other guys. Monty Cook was pretty good about the arguments. I mean, he never really held it against you. I met him, in person several times, and when he found out who I was, he didn't immediately, throw a beer bottle at me. He just laughed and was like, you. And Monty Cook actually said, I looked exactly like he thought I would. Yeah.
Was that good or bad?
It was good. I was at the time I was 6 foot. I'm 6 foot. So I was at the time I was 220 pounds of working at the cannery. So I was built. And he looked at me. He goes, "You look exactly like I thought." And he goes, "There's two ways you could have looked: either 5 foot tall and 95 pounds, or like that." And he goes, "Tell me that in real life you have brass knuckles in your pocket." I'm like, "I drove up to Seattle. Of course I do." He actually thought that was funny. God, that was like 20 years ago. God, it's been a long time. But I was getting the packets. I was involved in it, and so was my group. My group was like, I was like, "Look, guys, if you talk about this, I'll burn down your house." So my group got to play, 3.0, and we checked to see how hard it was to transfer your existing campaign world, which was pretty tough. Basically, you're going to have to rewrite your entire campaign setting, the mechanic wise.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how this is what a lot of people don't realize is this, in a way, for a lot of people, this is exactly what they wanted, because 3.0 was so customizable. I mean, and it was the night, and it was coming in at the tail end of the 90s. So everybody, well, actually, it was 2000 something. I can't remember exactly. No, it was 99 or 2000 it came out. Anyway, but it was coming in right after everybody had experience with Vampire and Shadowrun and Cyberpunk and World of Darkness and everything else, where you could create something instead of having to take the character class. So 3.0 was a big divergent, and a lot of people liked it, but a lot of people didn't. Said they were going to stick with 2.0. In those beginning days, there was the 2.5 black books, which a lot of people don't even realize there was a D&D 2.5, but those were the black books: skills and powers, spells and magic, stuff like that. Most people didn't buy those. They failed. It failed massively because they weren't supporting it. And plus, TSR was going out of business at the time. When 3.5 came around, I knew about it about 2 years in advance, and it really needed to happen. And because there was errors, and some of them were like, I still remember saying, "I told you this would come back to bite you in the ass, but did you listen to me?" And one of the guys that worked for Wizards at the time, actually, "What are you, a woman? You're right. What are you, a woman? You're gonna stand there and go, 'I told you so'?" I was like, I can get my wife to say it. And but at the time, 3.5 came out. Die 20 Future came out, and I remember I sent back my list of problems because it was the pre-final draft with the artwork added, and I was like, in 4 places you have the wrong artwork. In 8 places you have the wrong caption for the artwork. And here's this problem, this problem, this problem. And the woman in charge of it I absolutely detested her. She was added to it, and she was stupid but thought she was smart. And everybody around her just spent all their time buffing her fucking muffin about how great she was, and she's a fucking tard. I told her that. She threatened to take me off the project. I was like, "Fucking go ahead, as long as you're paying me." You dig? But when the book came out, when the Die 20 Future book came out, I'll be damned that the problem, if most of the problems weren't still there that everybody had identified.
Oh,
Oh, it was ridiculous. That's like when we were doing Die 20 Modern, when Die 20 Modern came out, you had to take light, medium, and heavy archaic armor before you could take modern body armor. I got in a
okay.
huge argument, right? I was like, I know plenty of people who are wearing interceptor body armor right now in Afghanistan that couldn't put on a suit of plate mail if you put a gun to their head. Well, it's for balance. I said, balance be damned, it's retarded. And of course, it's like, why is it that a katana can cut through a tank if you have a 15 strength? That's retarded. Well, it's not meant to model. I said, you don't get to say you're modeling realism to protect your pet shit and then say we're not modeling realism to protect your other pet shit. If you would have looked at me and said, well, we made it like that so people could play anime games, that would be different. Yeah, Die 20 Future. The funny thing is I am literally not listed in any of the stuff because I had this thing with Wizard with don't put my name in, but add it to my file for projects I've worked on. I don't want my name listed at all. And I had somebody was like, "Oh, you're full of shit," before I moved, and I took pictures of these three ring binders, or later, toward right before they began releasing the books for 3.0, I had spiral notebook versions. And I took pictures of them along with, with stamped on them confidential, I took pictures of like, I got this bitch. And I want to say it was Ryan Dancy was like, no, he was there, big pain in the ass, because I argued with everybody. But yeah, I helped with that. I really, really wanted to write for Shadowrun really bad, and I was kind of working my way in, and then Nigel Finley died, which I was like, well, this fucks me. But I wasn't going to say that because that's like, well, how to go to a funeral, make it all about yourself. And I wanted to write for Riffs, and being exposed to Kevin Sabita changed my mind there. Yeah, but I really wanted to see Star Frontiers come back, but they dicked it. And then the guy who was behind the majority of it died, so we have no idea what's going on with the Sathar, and we're never going to find out. No, the katana wasn't made of adamantium; it was one you could buy at Walmart. You could cut through an M1 Abrams with it because their hardness was all screwed up. And I got in this argument. One of the guys was like, I was a tanker. I was like, no, you weren't, because you can read. And he was like, I was a tanker. My tank got disabled during Desert Storm. I was like, your antenna got shot off and you were deadlined. Well, yeah, I said, that is not disabling the tank. That's if you go out there, you can't talk. I said, shut the fuck up. And I would call him on it because I was the only other military guy on the thing for Die 20 Modern. And we get in these big arguments, but he was a good sport.
So with all your experience and all the sort of nonsense that you've been through, do you have any advice for people who are creating their own either modules or campaign guides? Or
I do. If you are making your own, well, let's start with rule set. If you're making your own rule set, if you're making one of these D&D Heartbreakers, I'm going to tell you, I've been doing stuff I've been playing D&D since the early 80s. I'm not one of these guys that claim to play it in 1952 when in the bomb shelter or what the fuck ever. I'm not one of these guys claiming I played with Gygax or anything. No, I started in the early 80s. But I've been playing and DMing since then. And one thing I learned, and I applied this to my design when I made my own stuff, I applied this to my design doctrine, is if you build it, they will run you over with it. You can never balance the game until there is no way for a player not to break it, because you're trying to make something foolproof and the universe will just make a better fool. Okay, there is no way I could not pound this into people's heads. No matter what you do, there will be a way to break your shit. No matter what. The only way you could do it is go the way some MMOs went before they died, where if you really looked under the hood, everything was actually the same. They just and that's the only way to do it. And the player may not consciously know it, but his brain knows it, that he's playing a game where the fighter is actually the same with the wizard. The wizard just has it called spell casting, where he's where everybody's the same and there's no each class is covering the deficiencies in the other class with with their specialties. It's just the game of big gray blobs. And even then, some smartass will figure out a way to become overpowered. You're never going to be able to perfectly balance it. Don't even try. And if you're big on social media, when somebody brings up, hey, check this thing out, I built, instead of doing like, oh God, some of the wizard staff were bad about it, and so were some of the other making their own games at the time for Die 20. Somebody go, hey, I used your stuff and made this completely broken thing. Check it out. And these people would wig the fuck out. I had that happen. Somebody used my rule set to make something completely overpowered, and everyone was like, oh, you need to edit, you need to release errata to stop that. Instead, I went, that is actually pretty cool. And I actually wrote it in where an NPC was offering to teach the PCs that exact thing.
That's cool.
I was like, because, let's face it, life is not balanced. Life is not balanced because some people got to start off with, I have $1 billion perk, and some of us had to start off with, you wish you had top ramen for dinner. Not everybody's balanced. You're not going to get balanced. The other thing is don't get politics involved unless you're writing it to actually have politics. Don't if you want to. It's not because I'm not saying don't involve politics so that you don't put in your favorite brand. It immediately dates it.
Yes,
it immediately dates it, and there are people who will get badly upset. But and the other thing is, your loudest market, the loudest people talking about your stuff, didn't buy it. The people who scream online don't buy anything, so don't cater to them. Cater to the people who come to your forums and are, engage with you on your mechanics, or engage on you on your ideas or your plots. Another thing I did is I did two things when I was running when I was publishing Year of the Zombie. I had my own RPG. I had two timelines. I had the official timeline, which I was deciding on, and then I had what I called the PC timeline, and it was what people wrote in the forums or emailed me that they'd done in their own campaigns. That way, you could either do the official one or you could do the living one, which was, somebody would email me of, hey, I live in this small town, and we played it where we're fighting the zombies in this town, and this is what our group has done so far, and I would put it in the next Survivor's Guide to Risen America.
Very cool.
People like that. People like that very much. Engage with your audience, but don't become over engaged. Don't take anything personal.
Yeah.
Keep a layer of disconnect. When it comes to freelancers, you're not paying them to write the next Odyssey. You're paying them to go away when they're done. Freelancers are prostitutes. You don't pay them to stand around and give you fucking conversation for the next year. You're paying them to go away. And a good freelancer takes their money and goes away until you're like, hey, do you have any openings in your schedule? If they can't do that, then don't work with them.
Yeah.
I'm a freelancer. I freelanced quite a bit. I did a lot of freelance work. I did freelance work for RPG Object. I did freelance work quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I would have been published by White Wolf if somebody hadn't screwed me over.
Ooh.
Yeah, they were like, hey, White Wolf wants to publish your Die 20 set. Can you redo it for 3.5? And I was like, sure. I had already done it. It needed a little bit of work. And then I found out that he had been paid tens of thousands of dollars. And I was like, where's my money? Oh, we haven't been paid yet. We get paid afterwards. I was like, no, we don't. You got paid X amount of money. He's like, well, that was an advance. I was like, that advance should go to me. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end of my working with Die 20.
It sucks.
Oh God, the field was full of cheats.
Yeah. Now they're just all on Kickstarter.
Yeah. They do like their 15th Kickstarter, and they have never once completely fulfilled theirs. And some
Ugh.
of them get on Twitter and talk a lot and talk mad shit. And I love saying, because I use the same name I used to. I love to say, hey, I know you. Somebody that they were talking about how they were instrumental in the founding of the I-20 and everything, and I popped into their little Twitter thread, and I was like, "Where's my money?" And I was like, "Where do you live? Where do you live? I would like to come to your house and get my money." And when did you get out of jail for child molestation? And are you still a member of NAMBLA? And they deleted their entire social media presence. Dick.
I've got one or two freelancers that I'm just about that way with.
Oh, and artists. I love artists. My daughter's an artist. So my friends are artists. Artists are the biggest prima donnas you will ever meet. You will spend more time ego stroking your good artists than you will writing some days. I mean, your great artists are tortured. I mean, they will be. What you got to watch out for is the ones that come out of the gate with a bang and look like they're going to do great work, and you start paying them, and then they smoke their own body weight in marijuana and never give you anything else, but they just ask you for money.
Yeah, I've had that.
And my other big advice, if you're going to get into publishing tabletop gaming, don't think you're getting off food stamps anytime. That you're still going to be using that EBT card, buddy.
Yeah. For every Shadow Dark, there's like 1,000, horse girls.
And to be honest, artwork, they make a big deal about artwork like you have to have it. I'm sitting here with the Game Master's Book of Legendary Locations, and there's like no artwork in it inside. What is Celtic knotwork, fake Celtic knotwork, and the cover just has some stuff on it. You don't need artwork. You don't need it.
You don't need it, but it does. It does
Enhance it.
Enhance it, yeah.
But
it
nowadays
attract the eyes. Let's say
right. And I'm looking at a print version, not the e version. So if you're getting into it, don't stress over artwork. I knew a very, very talented RPG writer that stopped writing his RPG work, which was almost finished, because he spent all of his time trying to get the artwork just right.
Ooh.
We're talking like 3 years. I watched it for 3 years, and then he just gave up. And it's like, why don't you just release what you have? Well, I don't have the artwork. It's like I just released the Risen Guide, the Survivor's Guide to Risen America number 26, and the artwork is a blurry picture of my daughter throwing a hand axe. That's my artwork. Well, it's different for you. Okay. The other thing is fully remember your success or failure is actually on you.
Yep.
Don't forget that.
I agree with all your points.
And the people, like I said, the people who are loudest, they don't buy anything. They never do. I found that out. Watching people screech and jump up and down and scream, I counted, and I paid attention to some stuff. And then I compared it to the sales. And these people, for all their talk of please change it to be like this, to be more this, that. And this is in the early aughts. So, this is before current clown world. And they just didn't buy it. And recently, in clown world, I saw something release, and nobody bought it. After all their screeching, nobody bought it. And the company went bankrupt. And it's like, I told you so. Cultivate an audience and stay loyal, and stay as loyal to the audience as the audience stays to you. There you go.
And just from your own TTRPG history and analyzing current trends, D&D has had historically a roller coaster sort of relationship with the market, where sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. It seems like we're on a bit of a down. I don't know if it's all the way down or if it can go lower, but
it can go lower.
Do you think that what we're going to see is like some other game like Shadow Dark or some other fantasy clone take supremacy, or do you
No,
think we're going to start seeing other genres come back, like
I
either
think
sci-fi or
we're going to see other genres. D&D has such a market presence that random people in cyber cafes in Zaire know what it is.
yeah,
They don't know
it's
what Shadow Dark is. They don't know what Castles and Crusades is. They don't know any of that shit, but they know what D&D is.
that's true. Yeah, it's like the Xerox of copy machines,
Yes.
basically.
I think we'll see other genres. But I think D&D will course correct in 5 or 6 years, because they found out that all this glitterati stuff isn't really selling.
Yeah.
I mean, they got
And
all these people that, oh, what do you want us to do? Well, we want to have glittery prom. No, the majority of the people who buy this stuff, they don't want to redo their prom because they left high school behind.
yeah, well, especially now, that's one thing I've been saying. So I published, or I'm in the process of publishing a campaign guide for 5th edition. And I said, well, I want to make something that's a lot darker and grittier and feels more like original D&D rather than what's going on now. Because if you look at it, 5e came out in 2014. So that means the people who started playing it 10 years ago, like assuming you're 13, 14 when you start, they're already in their 20s. They're looking for
Yes.
something that's more mature.
Yep.
So it seems to me like that's where the market has to be in general.
Well, what they would be really good to do is to, this is going to sound weird, but to split it.
Yeah.
Okay, in 3.0 and 3.5, your people say, well, there was no advanced Dungeons and Dragons with 3.0 and 3.5, and I want to slap them because basic D&D was just your core 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
The intermediate and advanced stuff were all the add-ons. That's actually how it works in modern game design theory. Let's take Pathfinder, because those are the books that are sitting right next to me. Bestiary 1, the core rule book, and maybe the DM's guide is all you need for. Actually, you don't even need the DM's guide. Is the basic core rule book and the bestiary are all you need to play the game at a basic level.
Mm-hmm.
But you add in Ultimate Wilderness, Ultimate Campaign, the other 5 bestiaries, the players, the advanced players guides, the other ultimate guides, and you have the advanced version. And I mean, a lot of people have no idea what's in the advanced version. There is literally a mechanic system that I have had the players use for arguing in a courtroom setting, and use the same one for having a bitter verbal duel with in front of the nobility. People have no idea that even exists, because that's the advanced stuff. Always strap your advanced stuff on later, and what they need to do is 6th edition is needed. Yeah, might be the most advanced D&D. You're right, Damien. That pretty much was how they were looking at it, and how you bolt stuff onto it into the advanced. I mean, Pathfinder 1E was tremendous. Now, I tried 2nd edition. I hated it. I hated Pathfinder 2nd edition to the point I gave my books away.
Wow.
It really didn't work. It really did not work for my players. But yeah, I mean, I think it can be saved, but they've got to cut out the coffee house crap. Dungeons and Dragons has always been about exploring, about killing evil creatures and reclaiming their loot for civilization, and pushing the boundaries of the frontier. And what they need to do is, anybody who says the words colonialism or imperialism or oppression needs to be slapped and ejected from the premises and have a restraining order put on them.
I don't know. I think I'd like to slap now with extra colonialism right on the box.
Yeah. I mean, what it is you can't play D&D and avoid all the isms unless you just want to have them sitting there sipping tea. And even then, tea is imperialism, because I hate that.
Yeah.
And they also need to come out and say, these races are not minorities, and you're a racist weirdo for saying so. and tell their
Yeah.
artists to stop doing that. That picture of the Mexican orcs is the dumbest shit I've seen in my life.
That was kind of awesome in the bad way, but
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
mean,
wow, how
it's
could you
like
mess that up on almost every, like, the only way they could have done it worse is like if they had taco stains on their ponchos and
I
stuff.
know. It's like, I'm expecting them. My first thought when I saw that was like, these orcs look like they want to sell me bags of oranges next to I-5. And my friend was like, one of my
Yep.
friends like, God, you're such a racist. Like, shut the fuck up. Look at the orcs. And then he looked at the picture. He was like, these guys are gonna ask me if I need roofing done, aren't they? That picture was terrible. And what they've forgotten is evil can be good. They need to. There's something weird in the modern zeitgeist where everybody wants evil to be good, and it's not how evil works.
I think, well, it's an interesting question. There's a guy on YouTube, Father Aaron. He is the dungeon minister. So he's an actual Anglican priest. And I do a show
Oh,
with him once
nice.
a month. And we've had discussions about um, religion in D&D. If you look at the rules and you sort of read between the lines, what was assumed for 1974 um, was everyday common stuff. It was back when most people went to church.
Yeah.
And if you didn't go to church, most of your friends and family did. And church was more than just a place where you'd be bored for, 1 to 2 hours on a Sunday. There would be Bible studies other day a week. You'd be getting together to do like food pantries and hunger
People
drives and stuff.
and people believed in things greater than them.
Exactly. And the problem with religion in modern, well, even more than D&D, it's just all tabletop role-playing game, in my opinion, is that, you don't have that connection and that same understanding. So now clerics are just like an extra spellcaster.
Yeah. And you know what I found out? Okay, now my players aren't religious; they're atheists. Some are
Mhm.
militant atheists, right? And when I ran my Chaos Earth game, I just threw it out there because it's in the rules that the crucifix works against vampires, holy water works against vampires, and the next thing I knew, my players were all for, if could I beat the demon to death with a Bible? And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna allow it. The players really enjoyed having the Catholic Church, the Christian Church, be
Mhm.
correct about everything because, like I said, if it's bright red, it has horns, it does evil magic, it's tearing the souls out of people. I can literally see people's souls being ripped out. That's a demon. I don't care what they call it. It's a demon.
Exactly. Yeah, and to me, that's kind of the thing. Like, I had to write in my whole thing, like I have sort of a 4-part plan on how you create gods, and then if you're a character, how do you play a religious character? But the other thing I had to write is I I call it on the table and over the table morality, where I have to like describe like, okay, on the table morality is like I have this one god who demands blood sacrifice, right? And it's like on the table, people who worship him do not think of themselves as evil. However, above the table rules is like macro, and like, yes, this is an evil god,
Yeah.
100% for sure. So you can have people in the game who don't think they're evil, but they actually are. And that's what I think a lot of modern writers, and more, I mean, we could see that in TV shows. Like I'm looking at everything Disney puts out,
Yeah.
um, where they don't understand what evil is and what it isn't.
And what's funny is I actually have religion in my books. In my novel series, I have religion. It's the religion of the digital omni Messiah, code made flesh. And when it was coming up to the digital all the signs pointed to the digital omni Messiah is coming back, and he did. He came back, and part of me was like, I hope they're not expecting me to do what everybody else does because I did something that you really don't see nowadays. He was actually good. He wasn't evil. He was actually good, and he actually wanted the best for people. But he also did. He wanted the best for people, but he knew he couldn't just give them the best.
Hmm.
because if he did, he understood humanity, that he could build the most safest and beautiful place for them to dwell, but it would be a cage, and they would bash their faces bloody, beating their heads against the walls. So he had to let them do what they wanted to do.
Hmm. Yeah, it's I don't know. I think your current crop of players. So you now are your games back on Ishii's channel?
We haven't been broadcasting them
Okay.
because we're really shaking down the setting. The
Hmm.
setting started out with basically a joke. Irish samurai, and then we mixed Celtic with Asian, and
Nice.
so you've got huge blonde dudes with braids whose names are Hidoshi O'Donnell, or Angus Takawa, you know, and it's so much fun because it's like, eat your hamburger, Oshi.
Sounds awesome.
But they really
So
like it, and
mhm.
we're still settling everything out.
Ah, now, do you think because they're a little bit older? I mean, they're Gen Xers.
Yeah.
Do you think that they respond to religion and the more sort of traditional storytelling better than, let's say, millennials or a Gen Z would?
I've played with millennials. I've run games with millennials. Um, the only people I've seen throw a shit fit over having the religions be good are easy. You can easily weed them out of your game
Hmm.
when you tell them this. If you're going to play a cleric, their cleric has to worship a god, because the gods aren't going to hand out divine power to
Yep.
just random people who don't believe in anybody. And paladins have to be lawful good.
Hmm.
And if they're like, well, my character's an atheist, you look at them and you go, your character who lives in a world where the gods physically come down to lecture the king and make miracles happen daily. Your character that has seen people put back together by divine magic says the gods don't exist. I don't think the adventuring group wants to adventure with a retard. I mean, you're actually running the chance of a demon going, so I don't believe in the gods, huh? So can I interest you in stuff? I mean, they also act like evil is not a real thing. The basic of D&D is evil is a real and pervasive
Hmm.
cosmic force.
Yep. That's yeah. I do find it weird. I was playing in a game with some uh, younger millennials one time, and I was playing a monk, and he would go like full Jehovah's Witness on people, and he made like pamphlets uh,
Uh,
that he would give out to everyone to try to join his religion.
That's a little
Uh,
far. It's funny, but it might be a little far. I'd kind of keep an eye on that one.
but they were so weirded out like the first time. Um, but quickly they found it was kind of a joke. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of makes me wonder. Like I said, I found that I have to write like guidelines for how you should treat religion and stuff, which Gary and Fred never would have done 50 years
Well,
ago.
actually, they did.
Did
There
they?
was quite a bit in like Dragon magazine and stuff talking about religion. The church is important to the daily lives. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, they did a lot of talk about how religion is a mainstay of medieval people's lives. And that's the other
Oh,
thing people forget is, it was a mainstay of their life, and it was a way for them to,
yep.
it, it was more than people. Religion was everything from community to how you socialized to how you knew
Like a
how your life was going to
social
go.
Yeah, and a social security system for a lot of people in
Yes.
terms of if you were too poor, if you were in poor health, even possibly to being the only education opportunity for kids.
Yep, and lots of widows were given bread and wheat
Hmm.
and flour by the church, and you know, I've had a few problems. I just basically told those people, you can leave. And they're like, what? You can leave. Because I'm sorry, this is a world. This is a campaign setting where gods are literally real.
Yeah, I would have. I don't know. For me, I would have just let him play as that cleric, and then come to find out like none of their powers work. So they're just like some guy.
I did that once or twice, and it just didn't work because they did nothing but snivel,
No.
and I don't
Ah,
like sniveling at the table.
I hear you. I hear you. So Damien has a question.
Yeah,
Um, Behold humanity.
yeah.
Is the digital omnissiah the confed gestalt?
Yes, but no is the short answer. The long answer is no with a but. But the confed gestalt is part of, but not part of him. It's difficult to explain, and my brain never really gelled it completely together. But they
Ah.
do overlap.
So speaking of behold humanity, anyone watching on X, I put a link in the chat. Same with Rumble. It is pinned to the chat on YouTube. So go check out the series. You back in April published book 8, The Lengths We Go.
No. The book that's not book 8.
Or sorry, 18. I mean,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. That's
18.
yeah. Back in April, I published book 18. The lengths we
Um,
go.
And so, how does it feel to almost have lapped George R. Martin 4 times?
Um, if he'd get off his ass and write and just do it, I mean, he has no excuse. He has literally no excuse. I went without oxygen for quite a bit. The VA tested me and found I had significant cognitive defects, which I'm working through. I literally lost IQ points. My IQ test was abysmal. Um, I only scored in the 120 range, and that's way down. Uh, I've lost the ability to speak 2 languages, and I've lost the ability to read one.
Ooh,
I can speak English and bad English now, and sometimes I forget what words mean. I lost a big chunk of my short term memory, and I am writing at least weekly, at least 2,000 words a week on Noble Wars.
damn.
And if I can do it, his fat ass can stop playing budget Gandalf and get to work. I don't know what it is with these guys. They get to a certain wealth and they either decide they want to look like budget Gandalf or Wish.com Rasputin. I mean, all of his bitching. Okay, if you are a wannabe novelist and you're listening to this and you want to write your great American epic, I'm going to give you the biggest piece of advice you will ever hear. Finish the damn story. It doesn't matter if you trip at the finish line and face plant into a puddle. All that matters is that you finish. Finish the story. That's all you have to do. That is your number one job is to finish it. If you do that, they'll love you. Maggie,
Yeah.
I mean, all you have to do is finish it.
Um,
Can I have ice and Pepsi? But yeah, but what? How does it make me feel? It doesn't really make me feel anything because I don't really care about him. I've seen him. I've seen him a couple times. I've seen him, interview a couple times. I read A Song of Ice and Fire when it first came out, and everybody was all gaga over it. And I damn near tapped out at the rape of a 13-year-old girl.
yeah.
And
He's, I don't know why stuff like that sort of like seems to go by. Like the whole
vicarious evil.
Stephen King in the
Ugh.
sewer gangbang. Like, why did
Yeah,
it take 30 years before people started noticing that?
we did. We noticed it early on. I was disgusted by it because, and especially because of the reason they were lost in the sewers and couldn't figure out how to get their way out. So they had a quick gangbang to clear their heads. She lost her
Uh,
virginity in a sewer gangbang.
that's what cocaine will get you.
Yeah, and
Um,
No, and it's not the worst he's written. He did a very, very in-depth, highly detailed rape of a 12-year-old boy outside of a library.
Hmm. That's true.
And what it is, uh, they're big authors, so nobody is allowed to say, I don't think you should have that in there. No, they're too big for that.
Yeah. So do you think now with sort of mainstream publishing in a lot of ways is on a downward slide, and it seems like indie publishing is going up. Do you ever see a time when there will be sort of parity with, I guess, what you call the mainstream, sort of like if you
Oh,
watch certain things on YouTube, they're now getting more views than
thank you.
cable TV. Do you
If I
think?
have my stuff. Go ahead. Sorry. No, never
Oh,
mind. I'm
sorry.
trying to do two conversations at once. Actually, something interesting is the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America accidentally leaked how much people made over the
Oh,
course of a year with traditional. Now, first of all, I want to preface it with traditional writing has certain things that aren't talked about. You read about these people getting $1.5 million, $2 million advances, and what people don't realize is they have to be paid back. And when you see, a million books sold, it counts when Walmart bought them by the thousand and then threw them in the dumpster. But here's the thing: the author doesn't make any money off of those,
hmm.
so they have to pay that back. And in some cases, in the contract, the advance comes with interest.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Mm-hmm. And what happens is they don't get paid until a certain amount of time, and then Walmart rips the covers off of all the books and throws them in the garbage if they don't sell. And then the publisher has to reimburse Walmart for those books. All right. So now
Hmm.
I can understand how that works. The 90% of traditionally published writers made less than $500 that year, not
Oof.
that month, that year.
Ouch.
Of the remaining 10%, less than half made more than $500 in a month.
Wow.
So if you have a really good fan base that really enjoys your stuff and really buys your stuff, you can hit $500 in a month. And the best part is you don't have the publisher taking money out of your pocket, because some of the big gigantic trad pub guys, they make you pay for the covers. Oh, and you also
Hmm.
get no input on the covers. They make last minute edits to your book and don't tell you.
Mm. Yeah, that's for me. That's too many negatives, I would think,
Yeah.
and it's sort of we've gone through different points in history where authors and artists will sort of have a patron, um, and then there's other times when there's more like a publishing system. And it almost seems like we're back to the patron type times, except it's being spread out over multiple people.
Sorry, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, this happens now and then. I glitched.
No problem. I was just saying, it seems like, with the indie revolution, history in some ways is repeating itself. Where, if you look throughout medieval and Renaissance and Enlightenment period Europe, you had people who were sponsored by patrons
Mhm.
uh, in order to, keep it up. And then we went to more of like a publishing system to make money with things. And it almost seems like we're back to that patronage system,
We are.
except you're spreading it out over multiple people.
You are. And if you're a writer, please don't bother with traditional publishing. I've watched Twitter over the years, and I have seen so many people talking about how they got picked up, and and they're like, well, my book still hasn't come out. I'm still in editing. Or, oh, they picked it up. It's editing done. Here's the cover. And you never see their books in the store because here's the other thing they do is they pick up stories and then they never publish them, but they keep the rights to them
Mm-hmm.
because it's protecting their big writers. And then there was a huge scandal a few months ago where it turns out you would submit a query letter to an editor, and if she really liked the idea, she would give it to her preferred authors.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Switching topics just a little bit. So you are a man who enjoys his military sci-fi.
Yes.
There's certain genres of sci-fi that have gone by the wayside. Like you mentioned, Shadowrun. I think to an extent, like the cyberpunk genre has sort of like gone away because we live in a current day dystopia. So we don't necessarily need to
Yeah.
fantasize about those worlds.
And the cybernetics are absolute trash.
Yeah. It's
But
and we don't have the cool clothes and haircuts.
Yeah. I mean, we need to go back to the '80s leather and mohawks. And it's funny because I was at the VA the other day, and there's a woman there that I've seen for the last 4 years, and she's got a prosthetic leg, and this shit looks like it belongs in cyberpunk. She's got anime girls doing the Ahego face stenciled on her leg. It's got LED lights. Once in a while, it makes clicky noises, and once in a while it lets out little things that steam. And I was like, "What's with the blowing steam?" She goes, "Oh yeah, I've got to put distilled water in that every couple hours, but it's cool, ain't it?" Her
That's
leg
awesome.
Her leg is awesome as shit. She said she got a concealed carry license because she literally has the RoboCop thing in her prosthetic leg.
Oh,
Where it'll open up and let her grab her pistol. It's like, oh
that's
my God.
awesome.
She also walks around with a T-shirt that says "I'm on my last leg." It's like, oh my God. I mean, she's got a cool cybernetic, but most people just have shitty cybernetics. But they're getting better. But this is the worst dystopia of all time.
Do you think that there was ever like a peak sci-fi period? And where do you think, like, what flavor of sci-fi do you think is gonna be up and coming?
I think we're going to stick with dystopia. I think we're going to see a resurgence of post-apocalyptic because of everything going on. But for me, the best part of sci-fi was the 50s and the 60s because they had such high hopes for us. We let them down. I mean, we let them down.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they had a lot of the cool aesthetics too. The fishbowl on the head, the curved guns and rocket ships.
Yeah, I mean, and it turns out that people actually like that. People still like it. I mean, one of my covers had a Atlantic Talon with the fishbowl helmet because they have 6 eyes so they can see behind them. So of course they're going to use a fishback.
Yeah,
not fishback, fishbowl. Bah, stupid. But people liked it. People really like the whole aesthetic because let's face it, modern sci-fi aesthetic is trash. It's basically trash heap. It's all the same. It's black. It's black with muted. If there's any colors, it's muted to the point where you can barely see it, and it looks like plastic. It all looks like plastic, and it looks like little girls.
Yes,
and it's terrible. I mean, look at what Marvel has done to power armor.
Yeah.
I mean, everything looks like Shark Boy and Lava Girl now.
That's true. I never thought about that, but yeah. Oh man.
Look at all the medieval plate armor. It looks like plastic. The modern sci-fi aesthetic is garbage. It's literally garbage. It's not even as good as the old toys. Yeah. So I think we need to go back, not to the 60s, maybe skip the 60s and go into the 70s, but we need 80s cyberpunk back. And if you're advocating for the government and the machine, you're not counterculture.
Speaking of which, you might have some opinions on this. I have noticed
I got lots of opinions.
that if you go through at least the 20th century, every decade has its own distinct flavor and style. Like the 60s looked different from the 50s. The 70s were all like nasty bell bottoms and plaid. The 80s,
Ugh.
you had like the cyberpunk and the start of preppy type culture.
Mhm.
90s were all about grunge. But what happened when we got to the 2000s? Because when I look today, like fashion is just about the same. Most of our lives are just about the same, except for maybe like newer models of phones.
My wife and I were discussing this. We were actually discussing it because I was messing with fashions for the books for my stories, and what happened is social media, and nobody wants, and social media and the clothing manufacturers, nobody wants to be cringe. Nobody wants to. It's like, shut the hell up. But at the same time, I'm a little to blame because I wear the same thing I have since like 83, 84. Jeans, combat boots, t-shirt, flannel shirt. I wear the same thing I've worn for 40 years. But no, you're right. Fashion has stopped. And part of it is because it's major manufacturers producing all our clothes, and they're not going to change the factory lines.
That's interesting. See, because I would have thought of it the other way, like they would want to change it because then everyone would have to replace their wardrobe every 5 years or so.
No, they just made it out of cheap crap, so you have to replace your wardrobe every 2 years.
Well, I guess that is true.
Have you noticed when you go to Walmart, you can go to Walmart right now, and you can buy Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors t-shirts, Transformers t-shirts, with the exact same patterns as the one I saw in the 80s.
Yep, I've noticed that. And it just makes me wonder, like I've seen a lot of younger Gen Z and Gen Alpha, like you'll see them on like YouTube videos of stuff like from the 80s and the 90s and be like, oh my God, things were so great back then. Everything's so boring now. So even somehow the younger people who shouldn't know, they know.
Now, at the same time, though, they look at what we were watching on TV and watching at the movies and screech over it.
Yeah, that's true.
Horror movies are disgusting. How could you watch a movie that's just about people getting killed? Well, I don't know about you, but I like watching Jason kill hippies. I can watch that all day. Jason Voorhees doing God's work, killing teenagers and hippies.
It's kind of interesting. My wife hates horror movies, but we saw one of the Friday the 13th movies, and she's like, "Oh, that wasn't too bad at all."
Slasher flicks aren't horror movies. Slasher flicks are where you're rooting for the bad guy because the heroes are so insufferable. And as you get older, you're like, God, I want that person to die. Oh, he killed him. Yay.
So you, as we had mentioned, Behold Humanity, The Lengths We Go came out in April.
Yes.
As a man who I'm assuming was due to being struck by lightning, you can type a bajillion words a minute.
Yeah.
When do you think you'll be ready with
First
book
of the month.
19? First of the month?
Yep. I've got the cover. It's already done in editing. It's already done in layout. I just got to upload it.
Dang. That's impressive. So, Do you have like sort of a limit to the series where you're like, I want to write until here, or do you think this is something you'll be writing into eternity?
I don't know. It's still stream of consciousness writing, and I still get the fugue states.
Ah,
For those that didn't see the other interview, I was writing consciously, and I was sitting in my front room, and I had a lightning bolt hit on either side of the house. I mean, we took pictures of where the lightning struck on either side of the house, and the bolt jumped through the middle of the house. It got me. It destroyed the TV. It destroyed my monitor. It messed up my computer. It screwed up the thermostat. Right. Well, all I hear is this loud explosion, and everything goes blue, and everything tasted blue. And it's still fading away. My eyes are still dazzled, and I hear my oldest daughter yell, "Mom, Dad got hit by lightning!" Like I did it on purpose. Another time, I was on a live stream. We were playing Fallout 76. I was on a live stream. I took the dogs out, and the dogs started, howling, and then they ran in. They started doing that cry out, yipe, 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 and they ran into the house. I was like, what is out here? Lightning hit about 10 feet away from me and knocked me down.
wow.
And I was like, ow.
So
And
when that happened, did you call Thor a pussy?
no, I'm not gonna risk it twice. The other day, I was like, I'm gonna go outside. I opened the door, and lightning hit out in the field next to my house. I'm like, I'm gonna go back inside. But I get fugue states. I'll sit down and I'll start writing. And I'll get like the first sentence or two, and then I'll come out of the fugue state and I'll have like 2,000 words done.
Wow.
So I have no idea where this is going. So yeah.
So out of curiosity, do you feel like it's you writing it, or do you feel like there's another part of you, or something like a separate Ralts that is
Now,
writing that? And then
I
nope.
think it kicks in the majority of my processing power,
Ah,
and it's just not bothering to put it into short-term memory.
that makes a lot of sense. Do you ever surprise yourself when you read
Yes.
what you wrote? Yeah.
Yes. Oh, all the time. I was like, I didn't see it. I didn't see that coming.
So even though you have an author on the book, or sorry, an editor on the book, I assume you do edits before you hand it over to her.
Yes.
Does that make it easier when it's like Fugue State Ralts writes, and then are you able to be sort of like more objective about your own writing when Conscious State Ralts reads through it
Oddly
again?
enough, yes. But it gets posted up online, stream of consciousness, and I edited one book really, really good. I mean, it went through. I spent a lot of money. Editors are expensive. For those of you that wonder why some books go up on Kindle and the like without editing is extremely expensive. You'll start at $1,000 and keep going.
Yeah, but I don't know. As a very dyslexic guy, it's worth it.
Yeah, it can be worth it.
So, as your own author, as an indie publisher, you've got artwork.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
But
sorry. Yeah.
I had it edited heavily.
Mhm.
I ended up uploading a different version after about 2 months because a lot of my fans hated it.
Oh,
And when I uploaded this version full of spelling errors and grammar and circular sentences and everything else this person was bitching to me about that I had to fix, everybody was happy. And I was like, it's exactly what's up on Reddit. And they went, yes. That's what it was. They were literally, yes, it's what's on Reddit. It's what I can have for free. I want this I want to be able to read this without logging onto Reddit and without hitting the next button constantly.
So speaking of Reddit, for a lot of people, Reddit is a hive of wretched scum and villainry. But it does seem like, at least in the subs that are further from the main page, it does have uses. Do you think that in some ways you're grandfathered in because you sort of got on there writing on Reddit when it was a more normal site, or do you think it still has utility for People
I
who
think
just want to start.
it still has utility. I will give you the advice. Don't include politics. If people bring
Mm,
politics into your comments, just ignore it.
yeah.
If people want to complain, just ignore. I had somebody that was bugging me. It was the only time I complained because somebody kept spamming me with just say trans lives matter. And it's like, you're not dragging me into this. You're not dragging me into it because it doesn't matter. As soon as I give into one, I have to give into all of them.
Yep. Yep.
The only thing I did is it upset a lot of people. And I was a little worried because Reddit was banning anything that they thought even remotely praised Russia. And I had written a scene where the guy was putting on a Spetsnaz shirt.
Oh.
And I didn't pay attention to the potato to the 2024 potato war. I don't care. Doesn't matter to me. They're slap fighting over potatoes, and I couldn't give a shit less. I really don't. Okay, I hated both of them before most people here were born. I mean, I really did. I didn't like the Soviet Union. Most of the people that bitch were born or weren't in school when the Soviet Union collapsed. So it's like I don't want to hear it. And so I changed the shirt because I was worried because Reddit was purging anything that looked like it was praising Russia. And that's one of the few times I gave in, and I still don't like that I gave in. I see it still bothers me.
Mm.
And it's just made it now where I will not change it because it hurts people's feelings because you can't you can't please anybody, and if you write to please anybody, you will make nobody happy.
Yeah.
Don't change. Okay, if you're writing, if you start on Reddit or Royal Road or hell even Twitter, and you start writing and you gain a fan base, and people come to you and go, hey, if you do this, you can gain more fans. Don't
Uh,
do not betray your original fan base because what you tell later fans is you will change everything chasing the latest thing. Stick with your fan base. Stick with your fans. My fans like that humanity's dicks. My fans like that it's a malevolent universe that will kill you if you so much as sneeze wrong. They like it. Other people have been like, you could make it. No, you could. No, you could. No, nope, nope, nope. I had a sensitivity reader tell me that I needed to fix Pathaki's an ice cream cone, that it was possibly harmful to people. It's like if you're harmed by a Pathaki's an ice cream cone, I don't know what to tell you. Okay.
out of all the things, that's what they picked.
Oh, what they were doing was they were trying to convince me to hire them for
Ah,
$200 a page.
damn.
Yeah, sensitivity reader. It's like, no, get out. Go fuck yourself. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's
I know you don't.
crazy.
Yeah, it's like $200 a page, and it's 135 pages. I can see why you. Sorry, it's 135,000 words. I can see why you want this. No, yeah, sensitivity readers will start going after you.
Um, so don't want to run too long tonight, but one final. Oh, sorry. One final
Go ahead.
question. Do you ever entertain the possibility of starting another series, either within sci-fi or another genre?
Right now, I started and finished Dark Ages. I started and finished. Well, I started Noble Wars, and I'm in the middle of it. They just found out that the situation is worse than they ever thought because it looks like the Margite may have eaten the rest of the galaxy before they got around to our particular galactic arm. And that's not good. That means there's only one choice. And that's a spoiler, but there's only one choice. But it was talked about back in First Contact. So if you know your First Contact lore, you know what they're going to talk about doing.
Ah, awesome.
But after that, I don't know. I mean, Anyway, but yeah, I'd love to write some more cyberpunk stuff. I wrote a little bit. I'd love to write. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you too long this fine evening. Ralts, thanks for coming. Everyone,
Thank you.
if you're available, tune in tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, for CJ Leung. We'll be talking about tabletop role playing games in Asia.
Oh, cool. I'll have to listen.
And his own game, Cloudbreaker Alliance. So thanks for coming, everyone, and we'll see you back real soon.